Welcome to the channel, everyone. Today we're diving into something that might seem simple on the surface, but carries a weight that can transform your life in ways you never imagined. It's about the untold strength in saying one little word, no. That's right, just two letters, one syllable, but a world of power packed into it. Have you ever stopped to think about what it means to say no? Not just as a reflex or a polite decline, but as a deliberate choice, a boundary, a declaration of your worth? Most of us don't. We're conditioned to say yes, to please, to accommodate, to avoid conflict. But what if I told you that saying no could be the key to unlocking your confidence, reclaiming your time, and living a life that's truly yours? That's what we're exploring today. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll see that saying no isn't just a refusal. It's an act of courage, a statement of self-respect, and a path to freedom. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's unpack the hidden power of saying no. Let's start with a question. When was the last time you said no to something and felt good about it? Maybe it was turning down an invitation to an event you didn't want to attend. Or maybe it was declining extra work that wasn't your responsibility. If you can think of a moment like that, you probably remember the relief, the lightness that came with it. But if you're like most people, those moments are rare. Why? Because saying no feels hard. It feels risky. We worry about disappointing others, burning bridges, or being seen as selfish. From a young age, we're taught that saying yes is polite, cooperative, and kind, while saying no is rude, uncooperative, or even mean. But here's the truth. That mindset is a trap. It's a trap that keeps us overcommitted, overstressed, and disconnected from our own needs. The strength in saying no lies in breaking free from that trap, in choosing yourself over the expectations of others. And that's not selfish. It's essential. Think about your life for a second. How many times have you said yes to something you didn't want to do, just because you felt obligated? Maybe it was agreeing to help a friend move when you were already exhausted, or taking on a project at work that wasn't your job, or even staying in a relationship longer than you should have because you didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. We've all been there. I know I have. I remember a time when I said yes to organizing a community event, even though my schedule was packed and my energy was drained. I didn't want to let anyone down, so I pushed through, resentful and tired the whole time. Looking back, I realized I wasn't just saying yes to the event, I was saying no to myself. No to rest, no to peace, no to my own priorities. That's the hidden cost of always saying yes. Every yes you give to something misaligned with your values is a no to something that matters to you. So why is it so hard to say no? Let's dig into that, because understanding the why is the first step to changing it. Part of it comes from how we're wired socially. Humans are pack animals, and historically, our survival depended on being accepted by the group. Saying no could mean risking rejection, and in the past, rejection could be life-threatening. Even though we're not living in caves anymore, that instinct lingers. When you say no, there's a tiny voice in your head whispering, "What if they don't like me anymore? What if they think I'm lazy or rude?" Might see that voice is your brain trying to keep you safe, but it's working off outdated software. In today's world, saying no doesn't mean you're getting kicked out of the tribe. It means you're defining your place in it. You're saying, "This is who I am and this is what I stand for." That's not weakness, that's strength. Another reason saying no feels tough is because of how we're socialized. From childhood, we're praised for being agreeable. Think about it. When you were a kid, you probably got gold stars for sharing your toys, helping your classmates, or doing what the teacher asked without complaint. Saying yes made you the good kid. But what about the times you didn't want to share, or you needed a break? Chances are you were told to be nice or stop being selfish. Over time, that messaging sinks in, and we start to equate saying yes with being a good person. The problem is, always saying yes can lead to burnout, resentment, and a life that feels like it belongs to everyone else but you. Saying no, on the other hand, lets you take back control. It's not about being unkind, it's about being honest with yourself and others. Let's talk about what happens when you don't say no. Picture this. Your calendar is packed with commitments you didn't want to make, your energy is drained from doing things that don't light you up, and deep down, you feel like you're losing touch with who you are. That's what a life of constant yeses looks like. I've seen it in my own life and in the lives of people I've coached. There was a woman I worked with named Sarah, who was a classic people pleaser. She said yes to everything: extra shifts at work, volunteering for every school event, hosting family gatherings. On the outside, she looked like she had it all together, but inside she was crumbling. She told me she felt like she was living for everyone else, with no time or energy left for herself. When we started working on setting boundaries, the first no, she said, was to a coworker who asked her to cover a shift. She was terrified, but she did it. And you know what? The world didn't end. Her coworker found someone else, and Sarah had an evening to herself for the first time in months. That one no was a turning point. It showed her she could prioritize herself without losing everything. That's the thing about saying no. It's not just about declining a request. It's about creating space for what matters most. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your goals, you're saying yes to something else: your health, your dreams, your peace of mind. Imagine your life as a garden. If you keep planting every seed someone hands you, your garden's going to be overcrowded, chaotic, and impossible to maintain. But if you choose which seeds to plant, which ones deserve your time and energy, your garden thrives. Saying no is like weeding out the things that don't belong, so the good stuff can grow. It's not about shutting people out. It's about curating a life that reflects who you are and what you value. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, saying no sounds great in theory, but how do I actually do it without feeling guilty or awkward? That's a fair question, because saying no is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. The first step is to get clear on your priorities. What matters most to you right now? Is it your career, your family, your mental health, your creative projects? When you know what you're saying yes to, it's easier to say no to things that don't fit. For example, if your priority is spending more quality time with your kids, saying no to a late meeting at work becomes less about guilt and more about protecting what's important. Clarity gives you confidence, and confidence makes saying no feel less like a battle. Once you're clear on your priorities, the next step is to practice saying no in a way that feels authentic to you. You don't have to be harsh or confrontational. Saying no can be kind and respectful. One of the simplest ways is to use a formula I call acknowledge, decline, redirect. Here's how it works. You acknowledge the request, decline it clearly, and then redirect the conversation if needed. For example, let's say a friend asks you to help them move this weekend, but you're already stretched thin. You could say, "Hey, I really appreciate you asking, but I'm not available this weekend. I hope you find someone to help. Let me know how it goes." This approach shows you value the person and their request, but you're still setting a boundary. It's firm, it's polite, and it keeps the connection intact. Another tip for saying no is to avoid over-explaining. This is a big one, especially for those of us who feel the need to justify our choices. You don't owe anyone a detailed explanation for why you're saying no. If you start rambling about how busy you are or how you're not feeling up to it, you're giving the other person an opening to negotiate or guilt trip you. Keep it simple. "Thanks for asking, but I can't take that on right now." That's enough. You're not being rude. You're being clear. The more you practice keeping it short, the more natural it feels, and the less guilt you carry. Let's address the guilt for a moment, because that's the biggest hurdle for most people. Guilt is like the shadow that follows you when you say no, whispering, "You're letting them down, you're being selfish." But here's a mindset shift that can help. Saying no isn't about rejecting the person. It's about honoring your own needs. When you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you're not saying, "I don't care about you." You're saying, "I care about myself too." And that's not just okay, it's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup, as the saying goes. If you're constantly saying yes to everyone else, you're depleting your energy, your time, and your ability to show up as your best self. Saying no is an act of self-care, and self-care isn't selfish. It's the foundation of a healthy, balanced life. Let's flip the script for a second and talk about what saying no does for your relationships. You might think saying no will push people away, but in reality, it can make your connections stronger. When you set clear boundaries, you're showing people how to treat you. You're teaching them what you value and what you're capable of giving. And the right people, the ones who truly care about you, will respect that. Think about the people in your life who say no with confidence. Don't you respect them more for it? They're not wishy-washy or resentful. They're authentic and grounded. When you say no, you're not just protecting your time. You're building relationships based on honesty and mutual respect. Of course, not everyone will react well to your no, and that's okay. Some people might push back, get upset, or try to guilt you into changing your mind. That's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of their own expectations or insecurities. I remember a time when I said no to a family member who wanted me to take on a big favor. They were used to me always saying yes, so when I declined, they got frustrated and tried to make me feel bad. It was uncomfortable, but I held my ground, and over time they came to respect my boundaries. The lesson? Saying no might ruffle feathers at first, but it sets a new standard for how you're treated. And if someone can't handle your no, that's a sign they might not value you as much as you deserve. Let's talk about the ripple effect of saying no, because it goes beyond just one moment or one decision. When you start saying no consistently, you're not just reclaiming your time, you're rewriting the story of your life. You're stepping into a version of yourself that's confident, intentional, and unafraid to take up space. I've seen this in my own journey. A few years ago, I was stretched thin, saying yes to every opportunity, every request, every expectation. I thought that's what it meant to be successful, to be a good friend, to be a good person. But I was exhausted, and I wasn't showing up fully for the things that mattered most. When I started saying no, first to small things, then to bigger ones, I noticed a shift. I had more energy, more clarity, more joy. I was able to focus on my passions, nurture my relationships, and build a life that felt authentic. That's the power of no. It's not just a word. It's a tool for transformation. One area where saying no is especially powerful is at work. How many of us have taken on extra tasks, stayed late, or agreed to projects that weren't our responsibility, all because we didn't want to seem uncommitted? The workplace can be a pressure cooker for people-pleasing, especially if you're in a competitive environment or trying to prove yourself. But here's the thing. Saying yes to everything at work doesn't make you a better employee. It makes you a burned-out one. When you say no to tasks that aren't aligned with your role or goals, you're not being lazy. You're being strategic. You're prioritizing the work that actually moves the needle for you and your team. And believe it or not, most bosses respect employees who set boundaries because it shows confidence and focus. I worked with a guy named Mark who was a rising star at his company, but he was drowning in work because he never said no. He'd take on every project, answer emails at midnight, and volunteer for tasks no one else wanted. He thought it was the path to a promotion, but instead he was exhausted and his performance was slipping. When we talked, I asked him to try saying no to one thing, just one low-priority task. He was nervous, but he did it, explaining to his boss that he needed to focus on a bigger project. To his surprise, his boss respected the decision and even praised his focus. That one no gave Mark the courage to set more boundaries, and within a year he was promoted, not because he said yes to everything, but because he said no to the right things. Saying no at work doesn't mean you're slacking off. It means you're clear about your value and your capacity. If you're constantly saying yes to every request, you're spreading yourself thin, and the quality of your work suffers. But when you say no to the distractions, you can say yes to the opportunities that showcase your strengths. It's about working smarter, not harder. And the same principle applies to entrepreneurship or creative pursuits. If you're a freelancer, an artist, or a business owner, saying no to clients or projects that don't align with your vision is crucial. It's tempting to take every gig for the money or exposure, but saying no to the wrong opportunities creates space for the right ones, the ones that move you closer to your goals. Let's bring this into the personal realm for a moment, because saying no isn't just about work or commitments. It's about your inner world, too. How often do you say yes to thoughts or habits that don't serve you? Maybe it's saying yes to self-doubt, to procrastination, to negative self-talk. Saying no to those internal patterns is just as important as saying no to external requests. For example, I used to have a habit of overthinking every decision, second-guessing myself until I was paralyzed. It was like saying yes to fear over and over again. When I started saying no to that, shutting down the spiral and choosing action instead, I felt a new kind of strength. It's like saying no to the inner critic that tells you you're not good enough, or no to the impulse to scroll social media instead of working on your goals. Those internal no's are quiet but powerful, and they shape who you become. Another layer of saying no is in your relationships. not just with friends or family, but with romantic partners too. This is where boundaries get really personal. Staying in a relationship that doesn't feel right, or saying yes to behaviors that cross your lines, can erode your sense of self over time. I know this one firsthand. I was in a relationship years ago where I kept saying yes to things that made me uncomfortable, just to keep the peace. I thought that's what love meant, always compromising, always accommodating. But the more I said yes, the less I felt like myself. When I finally said no, not just to specific requests, but to the relationship as a whole, it was like breaking free from a cage. It was hard, but it taught me that saying no in love isn't about closing your heart. It's about honoring it. Saying no in relationships doesn't always mean walking away. Sometimes it's about setting boundaries within the relationship. Maybe it's saying no to a partner who expects you to always put their needs first, or no to a friend who constantly vents but never listens. Those no's are acts of self-respect, and they create healthier dynamics. When you say no to being a doormat, you're saying yes to being an equal. And the people who truly love you will respect that, even if it takes time for them to adjust. The ones who don't, well, that's a sign they might not belong in your life. Let's talk about the cultural side of saying no, because this isn't just personal. It's shaped by the world around us. In some cultures, saying no is seen as disrespectful or confrontational, especially in collectivist societies where group harmony is prioritized. If you come from a background like that, saying no might feel like going against everything you were raised to believe. I've worked with people from all over the world, and I've seen how cultural norms can make boundary setting extra challenging. But here's the thing. Even in those contexts, saying no doesn't have to be rude or divisive. It's about finding a way to honor your needs while respecting the values of your community. Sometimes that means framing your no as a way to contribute more meaningfully, like saying, I can't take this on right now, but I'd love to help in a different way later. On the flip side, in individualistic cultures like the US or parts of Europe, saying no is often celebrated as a sign of independence, but even then, it's not always easy. There's still pressure to hustle, to be a team player, to keep up with the Joneses. Social media doesn't help. It's a constant highlight reel of people saying yes to everything. Yes to the side hustle. Yes to the perfect vacation. Yes to the flawless family life. But what you don't see is the stress, the debt, the exhaustion behind those curated posts. Saying no in a culture that glorifies yes takes guts. It's a rebellion against the idea that you have to do it all to be enough. And that rebellion is where your strength lies. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Saying no isn't just about your personal life or your relationships. It's about how you show up in the world. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your values, you're making a statement about what you stand for. You're shaping your legacy, one boundary at a time. Think about the leaders and changemakers you admire, whether it's someone like Rosa Parks saying no to giving up her seat, or a whistleblower saying no to corruption, or even an artist saying no to commercial pressure to stay true to their vision. Their strength came from their ability to say no when it mattered. Your no's might not be on that scale, but they're just as meaningful. They're the building blocks of a life that's authentic and impactful. Now, I want to address something important. Saying no doesn't mean you're saying no to everything. This isn't about becoming a hermit or shutting out the world. It's about being selective, about saying no to the things that drain you so you can say yes to the things that light you up. Balance is key. If you say no to every opportunity, you might miss out on growth or connection. But if you say yes to everything, you lose yourself. The art of saying no is about finding that sweet spot, knowing when to lean in and when to step back. It's about trusting your instincts and giving yourself permission to choose. Let's talk about how to build that trust, because saying no requires confidence in your own judgment. One way to strengthen that confidence is to reflect on past decisions. Think about a time when you said yes and regretted it. What did you learn? Now think about a time when you said no and felt good about it. What made that moment different? Those reflections help you tune into your intuition, which is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Another way to build confidence is to start small. You don't have to say no to a major life decision right away. Practice with little things, like declining an invitation or passing on a small favor. Each small no builds your courage for the bigger ones. Another tool for saying no with confidence is visualization. Before you have a tough conversation, picture yourself saying no calmly and firmly. Imagine the other person's reaction. Maybe they're surprised, maybe they're fine with it. And see yourself staying grounded either way. Visualization isn't just woo-woo stuff. It's a technique athletes and performers use to prepare for high-pressure moments. It primes your brain to handle the real thing with ease. I've used this before big meetings or family discussions, and it's like giving yourself a rehearsal for staying true to your boundaries. Let's not forget the role of self-compassion in all this. Saying no is hard, especially at first, and you're not going to get it perfect every time. There will be moments when you say yes out of habit, or you say no and feel guilty afterward. That's okay. Be kind to yourself. Learning to say no is a journey, not a destination. Instead of beating yourself up, ask, what can I learn from this? Maybe you realize you need to clarify your priorities, or maybe you see that you're still carrying old fears of rejection. Each step, even the messy ones, is progress. Treat yourself like you'd be. Here's the thing. Saying no isn't just about the moment, it's about the long game. Every no you say is an investment in your future. It's a step toward a life where you're not just reacting to other people's demands, but actively choosing your path. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. You start to notice the freedom, the clarity, the energy that comes with it. You start to see that saying no isn't about what you're giving up. It's about what you're gaining. More time, more peace, more you. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge. This week, say no to one thing that doesn't feel right for you. It could be small, like declining an invitation, or bigger, like setting a boundary with a demanding friend. Whatever it is, do it with intention. Notice how it feels, maybe scary, maybe liberating, maybe both. And then reflect on what that no made possible. Did it give you time to rest? Space to create? A chance to reconnect with yourself? That's the strength of saying no. It's not just a word, it's a way of life. It's how you claim your power, protect your peace, and build a future that's yours. Thank you so much for joining me today. If this resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more videos on living with intention and courage. Let me know in the comments. What's one thing you're going to say no to this week? I can't wait to hear about it. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, and I'll see you soon.